Daniel chapter 2, starting at verse 1. In the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled, and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, "I had a dream that troubles me, and I want to know what it means." Then the astrologers answered the king, "May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it." The king replied to the astrologers, "This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me." Once more they replied, "Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it." Then the king answered, "I am certain that you are trying to gain time, because you realize that this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is only one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then, tell me the dream, and I will know that you can interpret it for me." The astrologers answered the king, "There is no one on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asked is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among humans." This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, "Why did the king issue such a harsh decree?" Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. At this time, Daniel went to the king and asked for time, so that he might interpret the dream for him. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, "Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons. He deposes of kings and rises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king." Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, "Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him." Arioch took Daniel to the king at once and said, "I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means." The king asked Daniel, also called Belshazzar, "Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it?" Daniel replied, "No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown the king Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in days to come. Your dream and the visions that passed through your mind as you were lying in bed are these. As your majesty was lying there, your mind turned to the things to come, and the revealer of mysteries showed you what is going to happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than anyone else alive, but so that your majesty may know the interpretation, that you may understand what went through your mind. Your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue of its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron and the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken to pieces and became like chaff of a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace, but the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream, and now we will interpret it to the king. Your Majesty, you are the King of Kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all mankind, and the beasts of the field and the birds in the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. After you, another kingdom will arise, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything, and as iron breaks through things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom, yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it. Even as you saw iron mixed with clay, as the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of a mountain, but not by human hands, a rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrated before Daniel and paid him honor and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. The king said to Daniel, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and a revealer of majesties, for you were able to reveal his mystery." Then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego chief ministers over the province of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court.
Gemma, thank you very much. And do keep your Bibles open. My name's Nathan. If we haven't met, I'd love to say hi. As we start, Christians are a bit weird, aren't they? Christians are a bit weird. It's okay. It's okay. We are a bit weird. Maybe if you're here and you are thinking that, well done for not being so put off by Christians that you've come. But why? Why are Christians just a bit odd sometimes? Or perhaps as Christians, we might find that being a bit odd is quite hard sometimes. Living distinctively as God's people, it can feel almost impossible sometimes. Being a Christian, it feels so at odds with the world around us. Our culture is kind of moved away from its Christian heritage and foundations. I could give examples. We could think about the way that kind of morals are shifting and have shifted from their Christian foundation. But it's more than just that, isn't it? That's just the surface level. We live in a culture where to speak about Jesus as someone who is real, who's alive, who we know now, that would just make us look ridiculous to lots of people. To say that there's only one true God is offensive to many people. To say that one day Jesus will return and judge sinners is bordering on hate speech. And the really hard thing about this is that it's been this way for a long time. Feels like that's a pretty settled position. Doesn't look like anything's about to change. And when something feels settled and fixed and permanent, at that point, we might start wondering if we're the ones who need to change. If we need to flex our beliefs to fit the culture that we live in. If we need to fold away some of our beliefs, tuck them out of sight, just to be spoken about in private, or perhaps not at all. See, there's no hope changing our culture, so maybe we need to change. Flex or fold, or do what Daniel did. Today we're back in the book of Daniel. We're working through this book for the next few weeks. And in Daniel chapter 1, we see what this whole book is about. It's a book written to God's people who are living away from their home with God. They're living in a foreign land of Babylon, and it's a kingdom and it's a culture that is opposed to God. And Daniel is written to those people to encourage them not to flex, not to fold, but to remain faithful to their gods, even as they live in a foreign land. Okay, the whole of the rest of the book of Daniel, chapters 2 to 12, is all going to be giving encouragement and reason to remain faithful to God when it feels like the situation is permanent and there's nothing you can do to change it. So, Daniel chapter 2 starts in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar. Now, Daniel 1 has told us that in the first year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, he's taken some Hebrews, some Israelites from God's land, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Daniel, and he's brought them to Babylon to re-educate them, to turn them into Babylonians, to get rid of the Hebrew bit and turn them into Babylonians. And we're in the second year of the reign. This training, it lasted 3 years. Okay? So Daniel, he's still a fresher, right? He's still got his training wheels on. He's got no position, he's got no power. He's a nobody. The pressure on little Daniel to flex his little Hebrew beliefs to fit in this great kingdom of Babylon must have been enormous. He's a political prisoner in a re-education program in Babylon, the greatest kingdom in the world under the greatest king in the world, Nebuchadnezzar. But Daniel, see, he doesn't flex. He doesn't fold. He remains faithful. And my prayer this morning, that encourages us to do the same, or shows why Christians would live like they do. And the encouragement in these verses is all about who God is. Okay, the reason Daniel lived like he did is because of what we see God reveal about himself. And that's this. God is the revealer of mysteries, whose king's kingdom is over all kings' kingdoms. Let me say that again, okay? The apostrophes matter. The king's kingdom, with a capital K, is over all kings' kingdoms. Let's see that together, okay? Daniel chapter 2. It begins with a king who can't understand a mystery. It all starts when the king had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. Okay, the king has a dream, but he doesn't know his own mind. He doesn't understand the mystery of his own dream. And he's completely undone by it, isn't he? He's troubled. He can't sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he dreamed. These guys, they're the Babylonian wise men, okay? They're the religious elite. They're the political leaders. They're the academic greats. They're the most knowledgeable, the best and the brightest in Babylon. And in verse 4, they speak up. May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it. But you don't get to be the most powerful man in the world at the time by just believing the first thing that any old astrologer has told you, do you? Verse 5, the king replied to his astrologers, "This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me." It's not about to be taken for a ride, is he? These sorcerers, the enchanters, they might whip up any old cock and bull story. So he devises a test to find out who actually can speak the truth. Only if they can tell him what his dream is, will he believe that they're speaking the truth about the interpretation. It's a pretty robust test, isn't it? It's going to work. I mean, imagine you came up to me after coffee and you said, "Oh, Nathan, I've had a dream. And I went, oh, the one where you were flying through the sky and it was raining rubber chickens, and then you looked down at your legs and they turned into a mermaid's tail? And you just go, yeah, that one. And I go, don't worry, it's all right. I know what it's all about. You're going to believe me, right? Okay? I mean, the answer is less cheese before bed next time. For the Babylonian wise men, it's a bit more serious, though, isn't it? They're going to get cut to pieces. Their houses turned into rubble unless they can do what the king asks. It's a robust test by the king. It's also completely unreasonable. Verse 7, the wise men, they ask the king for a second time, no, tell us the dream. He's not budging. Verse 8, the king answered, I'm certain you are trying to gain time because you realize that this is what I've firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is only one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will just change. So then, tell me the dream, and I will know you can interpret it. Okay, the king sees. The wise men, they're stalling for time because they realize that the task is impossible. He doesn't trust that they won't mislead him. Just feed him a pack of lies. And so at this point, the wise men just crack. They just say it to him completely straight. Verse 10. The astrologers answered the king, there's no one on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they don't live among the humans. Okay, the Babylonian wise men, they're no better than their Babylonian king. They can't understand the mystery. No person can reveal the mystery. The mystery doesn't belong to men. They say only the gods can help, but their gods don't seem particularly interested in helping. They don't live among humans. They don't worry about such things. The Babylonian king can't understand the mystery. The Babylonian wise men can't understand. The Babylonian gods don't seem to be any use either. They say knowledge is power. Well, suddenly Babylon the Great isn't looking so great anymore, is it? And so Nebuchadnezzar just vents. He vents his rage and his frustration. Verse 12, the king was so angry and furious, he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death. And men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. And with that, right when the story is at its lowest chapter, the light twinkles at the end of the tunnel. The Babylonians, the king, his gods, they can't help. But here comes the Hebrew, Daniel, the one who remained faithful to his God, the God in heaven who can reveal mysteries. Verse 14. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact, and he asked the king's officer, why did the king issue such a harsh decree? Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. At this, Daniel went into the king and asked for time so that he might interpret the dream for him. And remember, this is the second year of the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel is still in training. Okay, he doesn't yet serve in the court of the king. He doesn't even know what's going on, does he? He has to ask the guy who gets sent to kill him why he's being killed. But with wisdom and tact given to him by God, Daniel goes straight to the king and asks for a time, put me in your diary, so that I can come and interpret the dream. Okay, the king of the greatest kingdom in the world at the time can't interpret the dream. The best and the brightest in Babylon can't interpret the dream. But when the trainee, Daniel, finds out what's going on, he doesn't hesitate. He just marches straight in and asks to be booked in to interpret the dream. Okay, this is like the intern in the White House going and asking for a slot in the president's calendar so he can present his suggestions for peace in the Middle East. It's wild confidence, isn't it? Where does he get this? Where does this nobody from Israel, this Daniel, think that he can achieve what all the apparatus of Babylon could not? Where does he get this confidence from? Verse 17. Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Do you remember what the wise men of Babylon concluded? There's no man who can reveal this mystery. This belongs to the gods, and they don't dwell with flesh. Spot on, wise men. Almost. This belongs to the God. And Daniel knows the God in heaven. Daniel speaks to the God in heaven. He prays. He knows that he and his companions can pray and that the God in heaven hears and can choose to show him mercy. This nobody, this Daniel, he gets his confidence from knowing God. Daniel prays, and look at verse 19. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. The king of the greatest empire in the world has been in turmoil over this. It's so bad, he's ordered the execution of basically his whole civil service. Can you imagine what it would have been like in their offices that week? Absolutely scrambling, trying every possible trick in the book to work this thing out, every trick that isn't in any book as well. But only the God in heaven can reveal mysteries. So Daniel prays, and God reveals it. Simple. No sweat. Not for Daniel and his God. And in verse 20, Daniel praises God. He says, "Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. Who is truly wise? Well, it's not Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. It's the God in heaven. Who is truly powerful? Well, it's not the raging king who can have you torn to pieces at a word. Not really. It's the God who lives forever." Verse 21, he changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. Knowledge is power. Or at least Daniel seems to think so. He holds them together in his prayer. Wisdom and power belong to God. And he gives both to whom he wills. Kings only have kingdoms because God gives them to them. And he changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises others up. The wise only have wisdom because God gives it to them. God has all knowledge and all power. See, he knows everything because he controls everything. Think about it. Who is the one who can tell you with 100% certainty what's going to happen to you tomorrow? Well, that person is going to have to be in 100% control of what happens to you tomorrow. Otherwise, it might not happen, and they couldn't say it. God is in charge of all, and so he knows all. Verse 22, he reveals deep things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. And so Daniel thanks God. He says, "I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king." This king and his kingdom, they don't have wisdom and power ultimately. But God does. And the God of heaven has given it to Daniel. He's done it. Verse 30, jump forwards. "So that the king may know the interpretation, and you may understand what went through your mind." Okay, half our passage so far has just been about the fact that God is the God who reveals mysteries. And that is really important because the reality of what God is about to say must be certain. The one who is in control of all can tell you what's going to happen. And the dream, the mystery, is that the king's kingdom is over all kings' kingdoms. Daniel says to the king, verse 31, "Your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance." And then Daniel walks through the statue in the dream that he was given step by step. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its arms and its chest of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, and feet partly of iron and baked clay. The king's vision is just of this big statue, made of decreasing glory from head to toe. But then, while you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken to pieces and became like chaff on a threshing floor in summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace. But the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole world. This was the dream. And then Daniel interprets it for the king. Verse 37, "Your majesty, you are the King of kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory." Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom is in God's hands. He's placed under him all mankind, all the land that he rules, all the beasts of the field, all the birds of the sky. Wherever they live, they're under Nebuchadnezzar's rule. He is the ruler of the world, it seems. But what does he need to know? He needs to know that it's been given to him by God. And God changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises others up. See, kings and their kingdoms don't last forever. Nebuchadnezzar, he's only the head of this statue. Verse 39, "After you another kingdom will arise, the chest with silver, and then a third kingdom with bronze will rule over the whole world, and then a fourth of iron and clay." You see, kings and kingdoms and their cultures, they can feel permanent, like they rule the world. But God deposes kings and raises others up. And it's not like God just kind of knows that as a general principle. Okay, kings come and go. We all sort of know that. No, he knows it because he's in charge of every single detail. The detail given about the fourth kingdom in the passage, it's huge. In verse 40, Daniel tells the king about the kingdom that is iron and clay. It's going to be a divided kingdom. Every detail you see of every civilization is in God's hands. This is a blow-by-blow account for the king of what will happen after him, so that the king understands. He's the king, but he's not God. He won't rule forever. Now you see, that belongs to another. After the four kingdoms, there will be another, and that kingdom will be permanent. On that day, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it itself will endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out, but not by human hands. This rock, this stone, it's a stone that other prophets like Isaiah spoke about. See, this is what would happen. 4 kingdoms after the kingdom of Babylon, a stone would come, and God's kingdom would be established. Now here is a reason to remain faithful to God if you're living in Babylon. Babylon won't last. God's kingdom will. Over the years, I've been very reluctant to spend much money on furniture in our house. If you come into our house, you'll find, like, you walk into the living room and kind of all the furniture is slightly different shades of wood, and it's all slightly mismatched. And the main reason for that is that Millie and I have just always lived in rental houses. I've never owned a home. We've moved from rental to rental. And so I know that anything I buy just might not fit in the next house. Our house isn't permanent. So I don't flex to make everything fit it, because it'll just change. It's not a permanent arrangement. If we know that kingdoms and their cultures rise and fall, well, then we won't flex to make everything fit into something that isn't permanent. We don't need to fold away the things that are a bit inconvenient, that don't quite match, because we're not living for this kingdom. We don't belong to this temporary arrangement. Life now is just a rental. But if we are Christians, we can be certain that one day we will be home, in a permanent home. We'll buy the furniture now that fits that house, won't we? We'll live now for that kingdom, for that day. Kings and cultures, you see, they tell us what to do now. But it's like having a substitute teacher. No one listens to a substitute teacher. Sorry if you're a substitute teacher. You don't listen, do you? They set you homework, and you just think, yeah, but you're not going to be here tomorrow. You listen to the head, though. King Nebuchadnezzar, he needs to know this. He's not the head. He's just a substitute teacher. His kingdom is just a rental. It's not the permanent arrangement. And so exiles in Babylon, seeking to be faithful to God, they needed to know that. God's king and his kingdom are coming, so remain faithful to him. Live for that day. And you and I, well, we could be even more certain of that reality. How? Well, in fact, the same way Nebuchadnezzar believed Daniel. The one who can tell you what actually happens, the revealer of mysteries, well, he's the one who's in charge. And exactly what God revealed would happen, did happen. The statue of gold, the head, Babylon, it fell. And then after it came the Medes and the Persians, and then after the Medes and the Persians, the Greeks, and after the Greeks, the Romans. And then, during the reign of the Romans, a stone came, but not by human hands. A man walked into the capital city of God's people and declared himself to be a king. The elite at the time, they rejected him. And yet, in Matthew 21, we read that man's response. Jesus said to them, have you never read the scriptures? The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it's marvelous in our eyes. The stone that would become the foundation of the mountain that would grow to fill the whole world, the temple that is the people of God, Jesus' kingdom arrived. Jesus is the king who came just as Daniel said, and his kingdom has been established. See, since then there have been more kings and kingdoms, haven't they? Kingdoms rise and kingdoms go. But Jesus' kingdom has not gone anywhere. I mean, here we are today. Jesus' kingdom has remained. In fact, it's grown. And it's grown and it's filling the whole world. I mean, here we are today in Essex talking about Jesus. 4 kingdoms and then a stone. It happened. So now, remain faithful to that king. Other kingdoms won't last. Other cultures that reject that king won't last. Haven't we even seen that? Just think about the last 10 years. Think about change in culture. A few years ago, I heard about some great guys who were producing a series of youth Bible studies. They were designed to help faithfully teach on ethical positions in a liberal culture. And they were going to produce like videos, and they worked really hard, and they made them. And by the time the course was finished, culture had moved on. And the liberal values were on the decline, and suddenly conservative values were on the rise again. See, as Christians, if we just flex our ethical and moral beliefs to fit a culture, well, we're just going to find we need to constantly change. And when the king returns, we'll wish we'd remained faithful to him. And the moral stuff, that's actually just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? Tomorrow, try walking into your office or into your school and declaring that there is only one God, that his name is Jesus, he's alive, he's reigning as king, and you speak to him. He hears you, he answers you. Oh, that feels like a very difficult thing to do, doesn't it? Opposition to that feels very settled, very permanent, very everyone everywhere. Unstoppable even. It isn't. Daniel tells us it isn't. It is not permanent. History, in fact, is exactly on track. Our God is the revealer of mysteries, and he has made us understand. Kings and kingdoms rise and fall. But Jesus, our King, is not going anywhere. Kingdoms and cultures rise and fall, but the kingdom to which we belong is permanent. That's our home. This life is a rental. So buy the furniture that fits. Stay faithful to the King. Let me pray. Father, thank you for speaking to us through your word. We need your help. We need your confidence to live in this world faithfully as your people. Thank you for teaching us and convincing us that the kingdom to which we belong, the kingdom of the Lord Jesus, is forever. Help us, please, to live for him and for that kingdom, for that day, now and every day, we pray. Amen.